Hey guys, so today's pose breakdown is going to be about low lunge. This is a really common pose in a lot of different yoga classes, and it's a great pose to do in general, especially if you work at a desk, if you're sitting a lot, if you're hunched over a computer a lot, if you're driving or traveling a lot. This is a really great way to help stretch out the hip flexors, the quads, help release through the low back, as well as strengthen up the legs. So there are a lot of different ways to get into low lunge, from table pose on hands and knees, from a standing forward fold, from downward facing dog. I'm going to go from a standing forward fold. You may like to grab a couple of blocks or some sort of prop you can place under your hands. You don't need to, but I have short arms, so I appreciate the ground coming to me, and it's just a good way to help support the body in the practice. Props are your friends. Props can actually help you to get much more benefit, to get deeper into a pose. They're often thought of as kind of crutches, or it means that you can't do the pose right or fully, but often props can actually help you get much more benefit and much deeper into a pose than you would otherwise. So, standing at the top of your mat or on your floor, wherever you are, take a deep breath in. You bring the hands to the hips, and as you exhale, bend the knees, shift forward, bring your hands to your blocks. Take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, step back with your right leg. Now, a low lunge means you're coming down onto the back knee. If you need more padding underneath that knee, the simplest way to go is to just roll up your mat. You can also use a blanket or a pillow or a cushion. So while we're on the subject of this back leg, you have a couple of different options. You can keep the back toes, let me bring them up, keep the back toes curled under. Actively press back through the heel in this variation. You can also uncurl your toes and press down through the top of the foot. Again, you want to keep that a little bit active so this leg stays awake, and that will also help to take pressure off of your kneecap. The front leg, ankle is directly underneath the knee. It's a good idea to keep an eye on your knee and make sure it's stacked over the ankle. Don't want it moving out to the side or moving in unless we're actually, doing that. Sometimes, you'll do that just to kind of play with some opening in the hip. But if you're just hanging out in the pose, you want this front knee over the ankle. That is a relatively important little bit of alignment. Because we're on the back knee, it's less not great to have this front knee overshoot the ankle. But I think it's just a good idea to get in the habit of making sure the knee is over the ankle. Once we get into other variations of this pose, if we lift off of the back leg, come into any warrior variations, we want this front knee over the ankle. That will help to not only protect the knee, but it also helps to strengthen all these muscles around the knee. So if you have knee problems, this can actually be a really good pose to practice if the alignment is there. So that's an important bit to keep in mind. Now I want to talk about the hips and the shape of this pose. So if you're tight in the low back, in the hips, you may really like to let the hips sink forward as much as they can go. And you can shift that front foot forward again so the ankle's underneath the knee. That can be a really nice way to stretch. For me, in my own body, I have learned that this is actually not a good thing for me to do. I'm going to just move out of the pose for a moment. I have some hypermobility in my low back. It's one of the effects that I'm kind of dealing with from studying ballet for so much of my life previous to yoga, and I'm a little overstretched in my low back, through my hamstrings. So for me, even though it's quite easy for me to sink way forward, it's actually not doing my body any favors. So if you have similar issues, or if you want a more kind of stable, strengthening variation of the pose, instead of letting the hips sink way forward, we're going to create a little more stability for this variation. So again, front knee is over the ankle. Instead of letting the hips sink, imagine your front hip. Right now we have the left leg is front, so the left hip is going to move back, and the right hip is pressing forward. At the same time, the legs hug in towards each other. So you can imagine maybe there's something in between the legs and you want to squeeze, keep it there. That's going to create a little bit more stability, and then this is going to be a little bit more of a stretch. And again, you can play around with both options and see what works best in your body. Now to play with this on the other leg, curl your back toes under if they're not already, lift off of the back knee, step that back foot forward, take a moment to pause, adjust your mat, shake it out, and then step back with your left leg. Coming down onto the left knee, again, you can bring the mat underneath and take a moment to play around. Again, you may like that stretchy version, shifting the hips down. Make sure that front knee stays over the ankle, and the knee actually stays over the ankle. It doesn't go out to the side, go cross in front of you. You can curl the back toes under, press down through the top of the foot, or have that more stable option, drawing the right hip back now, left hip forward, hug the legs in towards each other. On this side, we can play with some other options. And of course, you can keep the hands on the floor or on blocks. If you'd like, you can lift the chest. Easiest way is to bring the hands to the front thigh first. This is a little bit of a balancing pose, so you might feel a little wobbly. That's okay. You'll maybe notice when you lift the chest, you get a little extra stretch through that back leg, through the hip. You can keep the hands on the hips. Bring the palms together in front of the heart. Arms out to the side, up overhead. You can really do anything. You can make a teapot if you want. And breathe. And then when you're ready, you can bring the hands back to the blocks. Curl your toes under, lift off of the back knee. And power forward, step the feet together. And then lift all the way up. And release the arms. Shake it out. I hope you found this helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, comments, any of your own prop options, modifications that you know, that you love, please do share them below. And if you have any requests for postures you'd like to see talked about in this series, please also leave them below. And I'll see you next time. Bye.